The questions, we can then take it from there.
Yes, Raja, if I can add, I think I would not restrict you to speak only about Sikhi. You can speak about any religion which has impressed you as a human being, and be open to that. That's where we are. So you have a freedom to express your thoughts. We are here to hear you, not very particular about us.
Excellent. Please. Well, thank you so much for having me today. Thank you to Satguruji and also to Gurmukh for inviting me along. So my job is I teach teachers. So when people are going into schools to train as teachers, as RE teachers in schools, I teach them. And that's because I was a teacher for 15 years in secondary schools teaching religious education. And I left university with a degree in theology, and I got my first job, and I was asked to teach Sikhi. And I basically had not really encountered any elements of Sikhi in my life. I knew basics, I knew that Sikhs wore turbans, and I knew that wasn't enough because some of the children that I was teaching were Sikh. And so very much I began to research and to learn. And then a few years ago, I was in the university and I was asked to write a series of books about different world religions. And I began by exploring Sikhi, and to do that, I live in Manchester. And no, I don't support Manchester United. I don't think anybody should.
Got a lot of Man U supporters here.
And so I spent a lot of time with Sikhs in Manchester, kind of exploring and realizing that my understanding of Sikhism and Sikhi as a whole only scratched the surface. And it also helped me realize I am a person of faith, so I'm a Christian myself. And there's a teaching, to know something called holy envy, which is the idea you look at someone else without letting go of who you are. You look at somebody else and think, well, what can I learn from them? And I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because you're sat there, I promise, but I've probably learned the most from Sikhs, because within my own faith tradition, and I use this example quite often, is I am commanded to help other people, because when I am in the service of God, when I'm in the service of others, I'm only in the service of God. But sometimes I serve people because I want something, or because I feel as though I have to. I shared an example earlier where I helped somebody change their tyre, and I begrudged it all the way through it because I'm thinking, I need to get home. I don't really want to be doing this, but I should. And then I encounter Sikhs, and just the idea of seva is the thing that one of the things that inspires me most, and the idea that you give without thought, even of thanks. And it's just so nice to see. But the other thing that really impresses me, especially within today's society, and is perhaps the greatest need, is the focus of Guru Nanak Ji on equality, and on the idea that, first of all, there's no Hindu nor Muslim, that caste distinctions should be broken down, that gender equality. It was radical for his time, and unfortunately, it's radical today as well, because we live in a society that tries to divide. And so that's something that just has impressed me. Now, my own version, it's not mine, but my Christianity is a very small group within Christianity. And oftentimes I am told I am not Christian because of certain beliefs that I hold. And I realized a number of years ago that same issue I have with Christianity, and it's not an issue I have but people have with me, is the same within Islam, for example, with Ahmadiyya and with Shia. And when I wrote my book about Sikhi, I came across Namdari, and looking at all of you today and dressed in white, it reminds me so much of those teachings, and also what we can learn from each other. Because when I teach, I'm not teaching people to become religious, but I'm teaching people to understand one another. And so that's kind of why I'm here today. I mean, it's been great to meet all of you, because the moment you put a face to a belief, prejudice begins to break down, and you're less intolerant of others. And so just the opportunity to be with you on this walk, to meet Satguruji, and to do all of those things is just amazing. So yeah, just thank you so much. Sorry, I've waffled on for quite a while, so I apologise. But is equality still kind of the major teaching within Namdari today? Sorry. Yeah, I've got to wear one of those as well. I don't have the beard that gets So is equality a big part of Namdari?
I would say that equality is a big part of Gurbani teachings. Because if you look at the very base of Gurbani, it says that what you can call God, you can call nature, it has all the names and it has no names. It's a prevalent in everyone and everywhere. There is nothing without him. Gurbani goes to the extent that different faces are just an illusion. It's all creation of one, and creator is part of you, or you are part of creator, whichever way you want. So yes, equality becomes important, but at that time, as you have said, Guru Granth Sahib has a Gurbani from so-called lowercase. At that time, those were supposed to be lowercase. Those Bhagats, Gurbani is included in Guru Granth. And then Guru Granth Sahib also has a Gurbani from different faiths. Even there are a Muslim saints whose Gurbani is included in Guru Granth. So yes, of course it starts with equality. And then how it was practiced. The concept of langar, probably being to Gurdwaras, you know what is langar. Where whether you are a rich or a poor or you are from whichever caste you come, you sit all in one line and you eat together. So that also brings equality. So yes, it's a big part of things.
So I know within in the wider Sikh camp there is sometimes a problem with kind of caste distinctions between people, and that's kind of culture coming into that. How do you think we can kind of overcome?
I think it's over the time it's reducing. You know, the challenge is the certain traditions take very long to break. So that thing is also reduced. The casteism is largely reduced. In Sikh Gurdwaras, there is no barrier on any caste to come and do prayers. So that way it's hugely reduced. Is it? I mean, if you compare on the other parts of India, the casteism is much more. So I think that's a contribution of Sikhism. Yes, please continue.
One of the things that I've explored is the Mool Mantra, Ikonkar. I'm intrigued as to because sometimes we translate it into English in different ways that make it seem almost a Christian view of God. So I'm interested in your understanding of Ikonkar, how that relates to what you do.
To me, the Ikonkar is what we can term it as a God, a energy which is prevalent everywhere and everywhere. So Guru Sahib starts with his Gurbani. Actually, in this, probably all Indian philosophy revolves around Omkar. Guru Nanak included Ik with that which means one, but even Omkar means same thing, which means that all whatever is there, whatever you see, it's all one. There is nothing, there is no second energy. So that is what I mean, what I feel is the meaning of Omkar.
Just one last question for me, sorry. So I mentioned before that we live in a very divided world at the moment, with people trying to kind of sow division everywhere. How do you think that can be overcome? How can we best heal society?
I think probably that is one education which has to start from school. Because there are forces which are trying to teach you that you are different, your race is different, you are black, you are white, or you are brown. And this education can start from the school, and all the religions should play a big part of it. Otherwise, if the religion is playing a part only in creating divisions, then what is the requirement? Why is it required?
Did you say there were other questions?
We can maybe ask the
You can
Sangha.
ask the Sangha
Yeah.
to ask you a question.
Does anybody else
I'm sure they'd
want
much
to
rather
ask?
hear from you.
Would anybody else like to ask Dr. James a question? Something which they feel would be appropriate. Don't be shy.
Stunned silence, that's always good.
You mentioned that you are from a sect of Christianity.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. You might have heard of them as Mormons. Mormons. Only one wife. Please don't put that anywhere. And has been since 1890. There's not been. So I was kind of it's very strange. So I grew up in a Christian home, but wasn't really Christian. I celebrated Christmas and Easter, and that was about it. And then when I was 15, I was searching for God, and found Him, or He found me, whichever way you look at it, and became a Christian, became a Latter-day Saint. But what was interesting, in those first 15 years where I wasn't really doing anything, nobody ever questioned my Christianity. But the moment I became a Latter-day Saint, well, you're not a Christian. And the reason I'm not a Christian apparently is that I don't believe in the Trinity, and I have a prophet today, someone who is a prophet today. And those two things apparently place me outside of Christianity. But for me, my faith is, just as with Sikhism, it's a part of who I am. I was once asked a question what I would think about something if I wasn't a Mormon or I wasn't a Christian, and it's like, well, actually, I can't take that part off me. As a Christian, I'm commanded to take upon me the armour of God. It's not a bolt-on and bolt-off accessory. So I'm going to use a really bad example now. So Iron Man's armour. Does everyone know who Iron Man is? Okay. What's Iron Man's armour like? Can anyone tell me?
It's red.
It's red. Thank you. It's the wrong colour, but yes, it is red. It should be blue. So it's red, and it kind of flies onto him or whatever, or connects when he needs it. And so he takes it on and off as he wants. Does anyone know how Wolverine's armour works? It's built within. It's built within. Oh, you were very quick with that. Okay, so it's welded, it's adamantium, it's welded to his bones. It's not something he can take off. And that's the way I view my faith. Is it's not something that I take on and off as I feel like it. It's a part of who I am. It determines what I eat, what I drink, what I watch, how I speak, how I treat others. It's an integral part of who I am, and so that's kind of my faith. Is I'm trying to be a disciple, and I guess Sikh is the same word, of Jesus Christ. So I'm trying to follow His example and do what He wants me to do. I fail miserably, but I'm trying and I'm learning, and it is an important part of who I am. And that's why I try and learn about other faiths as well, because you can't understand me really without understanding my faith, and I can't understand you unless I know a little bit about your faith. I'm not learning about Namdari to poke holes or to try and prove you wrong. I'm trying to learn about Namdari to understand who you are and why you live the way that you do, so that I can be better informed in the way that society works and everything else. So thank you for that question.
I just wanted to mention, we had a little chat this morning when you mentioned about the work with the examination board.
Yes.
I think we've got a lot of youngsters here, and as you know, religious education is compulsory
Yes.
within schools. So the work that you're doing on that, can you talk a bit about that?
Yes, so as well as being a professor of religion, I oversee religious studies exams for GCSE and A-level. So if you do, I can't name them, but if you do one of the exam boards, I will have overseen the exam that you sat, and also at the writing of it, the specification, how it was written. Now, the conversation we had was very interesting, because the curriculum was written about 12 years ago. And what happened is there was a specific way that it had to be written. And so there were elements of different religions that don't really fit. So when we study Sikhism, and apologies if this doesn't work for you, but when we study Sikhism, we have to explore pilgrimage. Now I know full well that Guru Nanak Dev Ji said that really didn't serve a purpose. So why on earth are we studying that? And what's really interesting, so we're trying to do better, is there's something coming out in September for the national curriculum, and it's going to talk about what should be taught about each religion. Now, I'm one of the people that's saying we need to include more diversity in terms of faiths. So when we teach about Christianity, we need to talk more than just the mainstream, if you like. But what will be interesting is that sometimes when we teach Sikhism in schools, it's very much about the Khalsa Panth. And that is Khalsa. So the way that, sorry, that's my pronunciation of all. I'm just butchering Punjabi right now. So and that's only part of what Sikhi is. And so when this consultation comes out and it says, okay, what should be taught, I would hope that people from the Namdari community, because you're all able to come, and I'll send it through to Gamuk when it comes out, but you can all comment and say, well, I think these should be included. And for sometimes it's just as much as saying most Sikhs do this or some Sikhs do this, because it allows there to be flexibility, it allows there to be what I term the messiness of religion, a diversity within that. And so, yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question. I've waffled for quite a while. But yeah, so it's always interesting to see how Sikhi and other religions are represented in the classroom, and actually there's a disconnect between what's taught and how it's lived, and we need to do better at that and seeing how it's lived in today's world.
Dr. James, what about the importance and relevance of the prophet that you mentioned that you have in your life? How important is that to you in your spiritual journey?
Yeah, so the question is about how important my prophet is. I guess he is my prophet to me. And so, I mean, talking to you today, it's not dissimilar to the way that you might view Satguruji. Is just as for Christians throughout the ages, there's been Moses, there's been Noah, there's been all of those. And again, I've heard this conversation today. We live in a very different world than even 20 years ago, or even 100 or 150 years ago. And so why would God, however we call him, why would he leave us without guidance for today and a way to interpret scripture? And so he is a man, he is imperfect, but he is, I guess, my guru. He is someone who helps me draw closer to God, and that's the purpose. And so I listen to his teaching. So one of the things that he taught recently was that we should all be peacemakers. And bearing in mind he lives in the United States, which is not the most peaceful country in the world, in any way, shape or form, and maybe that's why he was speaking about it at that point. But it was very much, and when I first started my job 30 years ago, some people in my faith were worried. They were worried I would lose my faith. They were worried that it would be contaminated by others, because you don't need to learn about other religions. But today, because of the work of the Prophet and others, it's much more inclusive, and it's much more recognizing of the value of other people and just building those relationships. Because for me, that's what my relationship with God is my relationship with other people as well. So thank you.
That's really well put. That's a lovely way of explaining that.
I just wanted to start by saying thank you so much for being with us today. It's really inspiring to hear you speak.
Oh, thank you.
So thank you for that. I wanted to ask you if you could leave us with one principle or philosophy that you believe every human being should have in their lives, what would it be and why?
So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use one that crosses Christianity and Sikhi. So I'm going to start. I don't know if any of you have read the book. There's a lady called Valerie Kaur, She's an American Sikh activist. I don't know if that's even a thing, but she's written a book called See No Stranger. And she quotes Guru Nanak in that. And when he came out of the river, he said, I see no stranger. And I think that's the message. And within Christianity, those of you that have done GCSE religious studies, you'll have come across the parable of the sheep and the goats. And it's the idea, my favourite hymn within Christianity is one called The Poor Wayfaring Man of Free. And essentially in that story there is a man who is visited by someone who is hungry and he feeds him. And then he's visited by someone who is ill and he helps him, and thirsty, and all of those things. And then the final verse is basically quotes Jesus, who says, inasmuch as you've done it unto one of the least of my brethren, you've done it unto me. So if I help someone, I am helping God. And so I can't look at somebody and see someone that I don't love. And that's difficult sometimes. There may be people I don't like, that's a whole other story, but I can't see someone who I don't love and don't wish the best for. And so if I can look at everybody and think, you're not different to me, you're not a stranger, you're just someone I haven't met yet. I once sat on something like this, but not anywhere as important, with my daughter. She's 28, and we were asked the question, because it was within my faith, if someone asks you out on a date, should you say yes? Now my answer was absolutely not. There's some really people I do not want my daughter dating. And then she said actually yes, because I might not end up with them, and that's fine, but I asked myself, what can I learn from this person? And that's kind of it. If we see no stranger and we treat everybody as we see the divine within, then that's just the one thing that I try and live by.
Very well said. That's not different from Sikhi. That's what Sikhi says. I mean, there is one verse, Pali, probably you can translate. Nako bari nahe bagana, sagal sang humko banai.
There's no enemies, there's no outsiders, and I see him in everyone, so I get on with everyone. There's no enemy, there's no outsider.
I mean, the same thing is repeated again and again. Man apne te bura mitana, dekha sagal srisht sag. This is not different. I think religion at some stage becomes very universal. I would say that the religions are started by the people who were awakened, who realize who they are, and then slowly religions become so much ritualistic, they end up dividing us.
Satguru, I'm sure you probably will also resonate with the fact that we being from a non-pay fund, and when we look at general society and other we are different in some form. Our faith line might be slightly different, but our core values are the same. And then when you're listening to somebody else from a different faith, from a different background, I'm hoping that some of you will feel a little bit more at ease and a little bit more probably stronger within your own beliefs, that it's okay to be slightly different, it's okay to have your own faith, and we should strengthen that faith. And by having Dr. James here today, I'm hoping that that's helped you all feel a little bit more reaffirmed and stronger in your own faith. And with Satguru's gift and blessings, I'm hoping we can just continue with this. A huge thank you to Dr. James Hall.